Hi, everyone, and welcome back to MedSchool Diaries. I am Olivia, second-year med student, traditional applicant, excited to be living in Boston, and I am back with our two panelists, Harrison.
Hi, guys. I'm Harrison. I am a non-traditional reapplicant who thankfully got into medical school the second time, and I'll be starting in less than a month.
Hey, everyone. I'm Maddie. I am not applying to med school, kind of resident overthinker here. Decided to apply and then not apply probably like 47 times. But here to offer a bit of that perspective on the panel today.
Awesome. So we've got everyone, as usual, coming in from very different walks of life, very different paths to and through medicine, sometimes around and back in again. So today we're coming to you guys with a brand new prompt, different from last week, but equally as important. And I'm actually really excited about this one today. It's one that I think just about anyone will be able to resonate with. And once again, I think talking about this one topic is going to open up 5 more doors for us. Lastly, forgive me one more time. Suffering through a little bit of a sore throat. I promise I'll sound back to normal soon. For that reason, I'm going to have Harrison open it up and read us the prompt this week.
Awesome. Yeah. So this prompt had to do with test-taking anxiety. And this person actually scribed a response for a friend via a phone call. So again, we talked about last week how these prompts like kind of apply to everyone. This just reiterates yet again, it's a widespread thing. All of these topics are widespread. So the response was, it's natural for test-taking anxiety to play a role in today's day and age when objective measures are the only way to separate a massive group of students. Doing well is the ultimate goal to show that you're capable. It's definitely a weight on your shoulders since you know these scores are used to filter out large amounts of people who compete for a small amount of spots.
Big topic. I think it's been happening for as long as we can remember. Standardized tests have been with us for a while, and I don't think they're going anywhere. I think our perception of them is changing. I think the perception of them from the powers that be is changing. I mean, with like the step 1 exam going pass fail, with a lot of medical schools transitioning to pass fail curriculums their first year, there's a momentum towards sort of recognizing that test taking anxiety is real. And not everyone is a phenomenal test taker, but there are phenomenal doctors and phenomenal healthcare providers who just don't really like taking tests. But I mean, I have a big personal history with test taking anxiety. Harrison, I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah. My thoughts on this are very, very, very similar to yours in that I really think the views from the people who are receiving these scores are changing. I say this like not to brag and not to toot my own horn. I say this purely for informational purposes. I scored in the 99th percentile on my MCAT. And I didn't get into medical school the first time I applied. I realized there are 2 interpretations. One is, holy cow, he scored in the 99th percentile. I have no chance of getting into med school if I score in the 85th percentile. Not true. The reason I bring this point up is to say that if it were just test scores, frankly, I probably would have gotten in the first time around. It clearly to these schools that I was applying to was not just based on test scores. It was based on who I am as a person. It was based on what I had done in my extracurriculars. What kind of volunteer experience did I have? What kind of research experience did I have? What was my GPA in college? It was this whole picture of who I was as an applicant. And the test score was just one small little piece of that. So I think knowing that the test score is not the end all be all, it's just one little piece of who you are going to be. And obviously this is, a discussion from my perspective that is specific to applying to med school, but I think we could probably apply it to outside scenarios as well. But knowing that it's just a piece of who you are and not, you're not just a number on your MCAT score. That's not who you are as an applicant, I think is at least a step in the right direction to help us sort of quell that anxiety and sort of calm down a little bit. I also think on a completely separate note, everybody should try meditation. When I was studying for my MCAT, I was a ball of stress. I mean, every single day I woke up like
Amen.
like this, like just in a panic. And I started meditating literally for 5 minutes a day. And the first couple of days, I was like, this is so dumb. And I stuck with it. Day 3, I was like, oh, okay, I feel kind of good after this. Like, I'm a little bit more relaxed. After a couple weeks, I was like in a different headspace. My
Wow.
focus was just laser focus when I was doing stuff. And then when I would meditate, everything would just like melt away. So I think you really have to, buy into the process and trust that it's going to work for you.
Yeah.
Obviously, like, 2 very different roads here, like, one being the test score isn't everything, one being you should really try meditation because it might be helpful. But I think, like, that's the point of these discussions, right? Is to see what experiences we have had and how we can be helpful to people going through the things that we have gone through previously or that we anticipate going through in the future. So that's my take. I know Maddie has some other advice that I'm also excited to hear, but what do you think, Maddie?
Yeah, I think you offer 2 great perspectives. I think there's kind of like a middle of the road there, just like giving it up to the test taking gods and realizing that test taking is just a fact of a career in medicine.
Yeah.
The MCAT, I think, is one of the shorter of the tests that you're going to have to take, if I'm correct. Like, I know the steps are like 9 hours long, and it's just going to be a fact of your existence for a while if you're going to be like recertifying your boards and all of that stuff. That's why I'm so thankful to be a part of our MCAT content team. Right now, we're developing like a course, and part of the underlying theme is like it is natural to have test taking anxiety, but that is also something that we can practice to quell, not avoid, like quell. Like Harrison was incorporating meditation into his life. We want to incorporate meditation into test taking. I think the coolest piece of advice that we came up with in our team brainstorms was like, when you move to the next question or the next passage, take a moment, pause, close your eyes. Like, you don't need to see that question again if you didn't flag it or whatever. And this is a new question. This is a new chance. This is a completely different approach, maybe a completely different subject. And it's just a click. Like, at the end of the day, if you do not do well on your MCAT or you do super well on your MCAT, it's all part of your journey. And I know personally, when I had my MCAT, I like completely dissociated. I had like a ringing in my ear and I was sweating for like 2 sections. And it just like made me so much more proud of my score afterwards. So yeah, I think accept that it's a fact. You can work on it, whether in your life or during the test. We're all like much more capable than we might think we are. And like the fact that anyone even considers to study for a 7-hour long test, like just thinking about that is, I mean, respect. I respect anyone who even considers to do that. But I'm sure Olivia has a med school perspective, probably getting ready to start studying for her steps.
Yeah, I think you both bring up really, really great points. For those folks who might be a little rattled still by what Harrison's comment earlier about like achieving a phenomenal score and not getting lucky that first try, I did not get a phenomenal score on the MCAT. I was like very average. I don't know what the percentile was, but it was like very average. I still cried tears of joy because I was like, that was my minimum threshold so that I don't have to go through that experience again. And I got in my first try. So there's an incredible variety of experience. No matter what yours looks like, you can get to where you want to get. Sort of wanted to lead with that. But to your other point, I think meditation, I totally agree. I didn't particularly meditate specifically, maybe in the same way that you did, Harrison, but I identify with the practice of meditation, and there can be a meditative element to really anything you do when you're not sitting at the table actively answering a question.
Yes.
So like my partner, he runs, and he's like, yeah, I want to try meditation. And I was like, you run 10 miles a day. What do you think you're doing while you're running? And he was like, I don't know. Like, I don't really know what I'm thinking about. And I was like, great. Not the thing that was stressing you out. Keep running 10 miles a day if that's what's helping. You don't have to build in an extra like 2 hours. And that's sort of what I always thought about when I thought of meditation. Like, I need to sit and do it for like 30 minutes at least a day. And my sister was the one who told me, she's like, literally start with 3 minutes or less, like 2 minutes, randomly sprinkled throughout your day, and it can make a world of a difference. For me, I had a dog throughout my studying for the MCAT, and who would have thought taking this guy to pee and poop 3 times a day really made a difference for my well-being. He's not responding. Sometimes the walks were an hour. Sometimes they were literally 10 minutes because he peed as soon as we got outside. But it was life-changing through that process. And I vividly remember really aiming high on the MCAT and not getting the score that I wanted to get, but a score that I was comfortable taking with me. And that in and of itself, like, everyone talks about this test anxiety, you take the test, and then like, no matter what the outcome is, what do you do with that after? Because I personally struggled with some like residual anxiety after the MCAT. I took it and I was like, wow, thank God that's done. But I had to live with the fact that like I didn't get to my goals like the whole time. And then going into whatever I had next, which was med school for me, I got in, which was great. And then I was like, I'm going to have tests like every 3 weeks for the next at least 4 years, sprinkled in with some like life determining exams. And I never came to terms with how to navigate my anxiety and navigate it such that I can achieve my goals. And part of that was sort of stepping outside of myself and looking around me, looking at my family, my friends, my peers, but also amazing courses and companies like what Maddie was talking about. I had to tell myself that it's okay to get help on those things. I liked the idea of saying, I can fix this just by myself. If I look up the right things or try the right things, it's easy, I can tackle it. But there's so much value in leveraging the knowledgeable resources around you. And that doesn't have to be just for the content review on your exam. It can be for all parts of this process. And I still struggle with test anxiety. I didn't score well for the last few exams in med school, and I could feel the anxiety building and my confidence withering away with it after every exam that I was just getting by on. Thank God for pass-fail med school curriculums. Blessing, which is a whole nother topic. But part of that was really scary. I was like, I feel like I'm sitting at my desk again, looking at my Anki cards or taking another full-length practice exam and feeling so uneasy. Once again, I had to sort of step outside of myself and be like, I'm in a place where there are resources around me that I don't have to pay for. They don't always have to be resources you pay for, or if you want something like that and can afford something like that, go for it. But I leverage my institution. I knocked on every single faculty member's door and I said, I think I know the stuff. I'm not feeling great when I take the test. Help me so I can succeed. And they said, absolutely. I met with like 5 people in 1 week and we really navigated it. I think this is the theme for me, sort of not making my experiences my identity and learning to sort of be in relationship with them. So we talked about the rat race before, like not saying that I am inherently someone addicted to that, but I can be in relationship with that mindset. And my test anxiety, I have to think about the same way. I keep doing this hand motion, but being in relationship with that is the best way I can sort of grasp that. But Harrison, I'm curious, you are done with that. So you have left that big exam. How are you feeling about the different style of exam that's going to come at you?
Yeah. So 2 things. 1, I'm done with it as a test taker.
Okay.
I am not done with it as a tutor.
Okay.
One of the things that you brought up was like relying on people that have been there, done that. You mentioned like knocking on the doors of professors and teachers and mentors. I really enjoy now being in the role of the mentor, tutor for the MCAT. It's something that gives me a lot of joy. I'm so happy that I'm able to help the students that I work with to achieve those goals. Like you were mentioning so much about goals and having these standards for yourself and trying to get there. And I'll admit, not every single one of my students gets to that goal that they set out to achieve at first. But at the end of the day, every single one of my students leaves their experience with me knowing more about the MCAT, knowing more about science, knowing more about the human body, knowing more about medicine in general. And that's my goal at the end of the day, right? And that gives me a lot of joy and a lot of just, it's so rewarding to kind of like give back after I've been through this grueling process. I'm able to kind of like take the hand of someone following my path and say, hey, like, this is the direction to go. Follow me this way. I'll take you this way. This is what I think is going to be the most effective. That for me is you know, really rewarding. To really answer your question though, of how I'm feeling, looking forward to sort of these upcoming quizzes, tests, step one, and all that stuff. I'm nervous. I'm really nervous. The school that I'm going to gives quizzes every single week.
Wow.
So I'm quite literally going to be studying, not just studying to know stuff, studying for a quiz every week. That is crazy anxiety inducing to have something to study for every single week. And so I know that I'm going to have to, as we discussed before, prioritize me, prioritize my mental health, prioritize relaxing from time to time, prioritize taking a step back. Pass fail, as you said, Olivia, a godsend, right? Because all I have to do is study for the, I don't know what the passing grade is, 70% maybe, I don't know. All I have to do is study for the 71, the 72, right? I don't have to study for 100%. I don't have to study for an A+. I have to know the majority of stuff, but I don't have to know it, boom, to a T, off the top of my head. That's not what I need to do, right? So I need to keep that, for me personally, I need to keep that aspect of things in perspective and focus on the balance between that and me doing what I need to do, keeping myself healthy, keeping myself happy. What do you think, Maddie?
Yeah, I totally agree with what you're talking about with tutoring. I've had like the same experiences with some of my students. Like some of the conversations where I get the most thanks is when we didn't even talk MCAT, no physics, no chemistry. We had MCAT therapy. We talked about the feelings of testing anxiety, about feeling like they're stuck to their study plan versus their study plan is for them. And really just taking control of your experience. It's not taking control of you. You're not going back to our previous video, get caught up in the rat race. The MCAT is cool because you can reschedule your exam if you're still working things out. I think it's a great preparation for bigger tests because it is a very long test itself, but it can be a little flexible. So you can learn what you need to do to prepare for the exams. But yeah, talking to people about their worries is so rewarding, and it just seeing like the stress melt off of someone's face because they realize that someone else went through that exact same experience that they did is just the best like feeling ever. I could do MCAT therapy all day long and just like forget the MCAT. But I think what we all are kind of talking about here, Olivia, with going to faculty members and Harrison with talking and walking through coaching students through the MCAT is that we should be looking to others for our mental and emotional well-being. Like, yes, we go to these big companies and buy their books because they have the content. But I think people who want to be doctors, maybe I'm just like overgeneralizing a lot, but if we're going to be the people taking care of people, we want to make sure we're taking care of ourselves, and we don't want to outsource that care to someone else. But I mean, we're going to be busy people if we're going to be doctors. Like we don't need to put all of that weight on ourselves to be the person that is solving all of our problems. We can go to the faculty people who have had experience. We can go to the MCAT tutor. We can go to the friend who knows nothing about the MCAT but knows everything about their own centering and their own emotional well-being. Like, we shouldn't, this process is dehumanizing and training, but it doesn't have to be if we all start to look towards others. Our community is going to be so important as a human being, but also as a professional when life is just, you're just stuck in that rat race. Like, we need to like take off the blinders and start looking to the people around us for support.
Yes, I totally agree. I think the general sense that I'm getting from all of our comments here is you can't pour from an empty cup. And whether you're refilling it yourself, which is there's a time and a place for, and you can do that so much, it's also so okay and so encouraged to get some encouragement, some feedback, some support from other places. And it's so necessary for your advancing in whatever direction you're going to go in. Today we're talking about test anxiety, but just as important as it is to know the content and have the reps in, it's important to take care of your well-being. Because at the end of the day, if you're not feeling good and centered, then you may not get the outcome that you want. So it's so appropriate and so encouraged to take time to tackle that. Even if you have to build it into your study plan, this on 2-3 times a week, however, and I'm sure, Maddie, you've probably talked about this in MCAT therapy, or building this into your study plan. Definitely. To invest in yourself and take time to get yourself right so that you can get the content right, so you can get the test taking strategies right, and you can get that score that you want. And Maddie, you made a great point by accepting that like tests are a part of life in and around medicine. For some paths to medicine, they're less than others or more than others, but regardless, they're just some you're going to have to take. And I'm crossing my fingers that like my grandkids don't have to take them as much. But for right now, and the next batch of my family members, we're sort of accepting that as reality. And all I can do is keep working at it. Again, being in relationship with it and looking for support when I can find it. Thank you guys so much. We have a habit of really ending on a high note. I'm happy about that.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I think over the next 4 years, my most important flashcards are going to be Olivia's one-liners. You can't pour from an empty cup. You can't pour from an empty cup is like a great one. And then what was the other one? That like comparison is the enemy of joy or something like that? Like, put that on a flashcard and I'll study that all day and keep myself in a good headspace while I'm, I don't know, studying anatomy or something.
Stay tuned. I'll be releasing my own Anki deck. Don't worry.
Love it.
Coming to computers near you. Don't worry. Thank you guys again so much for being here. It's always a pleasure. I get so much out of these, and I am just hopeful that you guys are, and that everyone else watching is also getting just as much, if not more. Can't wait to talk to you guys at the next one.